Om Shri Sai Ram. With utmost love and humility, I offer myself at the lotus feet of our beloved Mother Sai. Revered elders, dear sisters and brothers, Sai Ram to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank Sham for his very benevolent introduction, which is quite undeserving. But then, what he has said is very true. That we are all said and done, co-travelers on a spiritual journey, on this spiritual sojourn, where the goal is right in front of us. But between us and this particular goal, there are certain fundamental questions which we will have to answer sooner or later. You can avoid them for some time, but they will appear before you again and pose themselves to you and say, first, give us the answer, and then only you can move forward on the spiritual path. What are these fundamental questions? The first big question, Swami says, that we must all ask ourselves is, who are you? Who are you? When was the last time did you ask this question to yourself? How sincere and earnest was the quest? It was in the Upper Portico in the year 1997, one of my first physical interactions with Bhagawan after I joined the MBA course in Sathya Sai University. And Bhagawan asked me, where do you come from? I said, Swami, I come from Sri Aurobindo Institutions, the Mother's International School. And year after year, on 24th of November, since 1926, we have always celebrated this day as the Victory Day. Because on 23rd of November, on your birthday, Bhagawan, when you incarnated on earth, Sri Aurobindo came out after more than a decade of deep meditation and said, celebrate, because this is the day of victory. The Krishna consciousness has taken birth in physical form on earth. I said, Bhagawan, Sri Aurobindo knew that you are God incarnate. A few seconds of silence, and Swami looked deep into my eyes and smiled and said, that I am God is only half the story. The better half of the story is that you also are God. You also are God. The only difference being that I know it and you don't have faith in these words of mine. So always think that you are God. Always feel that you are one with Swami. I took it as a spiritual instruction, and thereafter I started feeling, trying to pretend to myself that I am Swami inside. But there was a big problem in this. And what was the problem? As we all spiritual seekers, these problems come in our path. I wear glasses. How can there be a bispectacle Swami? That thought came into my mind. Yes, I can be Swami, but does Swami wear spectacles like this? He does not. So how can there be a bispectacle Swami was a question that came into my mind. Fortunately, Swami took me that year to Kodaikanal. And one day as he came out of his room, we were all sitting outside, and I happened to be the first one that day. And Swami spoke to the boys for some time. And without any premonition, he just took out my glasses and put them on his eyes, bent forward, raised his eyebrows, and looked deep into my eyes, as if asking me, now, can there be a bispectacle Swami? Now, can there be a bispectacle Swami? And in those moments of silence, I got my answer, yes. If these photographs can be embodiment of Bhagawan, if the idols and metals and rocks can manifest God in fullness, if we have faith, why can't the human body, which is the highest embodiment of divine consciousness? Yes, there can be a bispectacle Swami also. If you look at these photographs of Bhagawan all over, yes, we should fold our hands and pray to them. We should wave the camphor at them and the incense sticks at them, but that is not the end. What Swami says is, these are not just my photographs for praying and folding of hands and passage of your time, but these are your vision statements. This is what you really are. You are all Satya Sai Babas in making. You are all Satya Sai Babas in making. This is what the reality is. This is the answer to the first question. Who are you? The second question which follows is where are you? Where are you? In my presence, one of the senior devotees asked Bhagawan, Swami, we do so much spiritual sadhana from morning, Suprabhatam, to night, Karcharan Kritamva, and the evening prayers, Sandhya on 3 times, Nagar Sankirtanam, Gram Seva, all these we do, Swami. How do I know where I am? How do I know where I am? Unless I know where I am, how can I progress towards where I want to go? The second question is, where are you? And Swami gave the immediate reply. He said, ask yourself, how deep, how selfless, how expansive is your love? That is where you are. Swami asked that devotee to ask a question to himself and said, ask yourself, how deep, how selfless, and how expansive is your love? That is where you are. Because if really we have to encapsulate the entire teachings of Bhagawan, the message of his life in one word, and that is love. That is only can be love. I was seated here nearly a decade ago. This used to be the second portico where boys would sit earlier. And when I joined for MBA, we used to sit here. And one particular day, there was one first MSc boy sitting next to me. I was in the MBA course. Swami came, taking letters all the way, and he came and looked towards us. And he asked this particular first MSc mathematics boy, how are you? I don't know what came over him. Or he had some family problem, or he was too much overwhelmed with the difficulty of the calculus, algebra, and real analysis of his mathematics course. He said, Swami, I want to merge in you. I want to merge in you. I was taken aback by his request to Bhagawan. And Bhagawan immediately said, welcome. But first become like me. But first become like me, and I am only love. And I am only love. You take a cup of sandalwood oil and pour into it 1 drop of water and try mixing it together by churning it for 1,000,000 years. It is impossible. But if it is a drop of sandalwood oil dropping into a pot of sandalwood oil, immediately it will merge and become one. The second question that we have to ask is, where are we? But what comes in the middle of us and this expansive, selfless, and deep love? Swami says it is the mind. It's only the mind. What does the mind do? In the beginning of time, God gave us all equal amount of love. The external looks of this mind, the external orientation of this mind divided and diluted this love into so many pieces that it never remained love anymore. What do we have to do? Bring all this love back into our hearts and offer it to God. That is the whole process that we are undergoing in this spiritual sojourn. If you are not able to find as to how deep, expansive, and selfless is your love, Swami says, I'll give you one more formula. Follow that and you would know where you are. And that formula is, before you go to sleep in the night, ask yourself, how many desires does your heart still entertain? For people, from people, of things, money, power, position. If there are so many desires still left, that means you have not loved God enough. Because Bhagavan says, to master the mind and become a mastermind, to remove this wheel of mind from between the Atman and the Paramatman, so that they can all embrace each other in oneness, is the mind. And to master the mind, Swami says, there is only one formula. Only one formula. And that is, love God more and more. The third question that we have to ask on this spiritual journey to Him, on this day of Vijayadashmi, so that we can all be victorious in our spiritual journeys and reach Him in this very lifetime, is, which is the best path to follow to expand our love and make it universal. In the Bhagavad Gita, we are being given so many paths. There is a path of karma, the path of action, bhakti, the path of devotion, the jnana, the path of knowledge, and the Ashtanga Marga, the eightfold path. Which is the best path to follow so that we can reach our goals of life? In one of the years, Bhagawan was giving discourses during Navratri, as he used to do every year. On the first day, Bhagawan gave a discourse talking about the greatness of the path of karma, of path of action. He said, all your past karmas, all your past actions remain embedded in your flesh like a thorn. So take the thorn of good actions, remove that earlier thorn, throw them both away, and then walk on the spiritual path. You will be able to reach me. That is why the path of karma and action is most important. The very next day, Swami gave a discourse telling, today everybody is tainted by egoism of one kind or the other. That is why, even if you do good actions, that is out of egoism, and it binds you with a golden chain. The bad actions bind you with the iron chain. Both bind you, and they will not let you progress. And that is why the path of devotion is the highest path. The path which Radha followed, the Meera followed, Gauranga followed, Ramakrishna Paramahansa ji followed. That is the path that you have to all follow, because that is a royal path of divinity. That is the best path in Kali Yuga. We all heard that, appreciated Bhagwan's beautiful discourse. The very next day, Bhagawan gave a discourse on the Jnana Marga and said, if Karma Marga is like walking on the road to destination, and the Bhakti Marga is like traveling in the car, it's only the Jnana Marga which it takes you by air to your destination. That is why it is the best path. The following day, fortunately, we could get an interaction with Bhagawan. In fact, not an interaction, we had gone to pick up prasadam, and as Swami was sitting on the sofa, I left the box of prasadam and said, Swami, I have one question to ask you. In the previous 3 days, you have declared the 3 paths of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga as the best paths. How is it possible, Swami, that all 3 are the best? In reply, I thought Swami will give me one answer. Swami counter questions me and says, have you seen a ladder? I didn't understand. I said, Swami, ladder? He said, yes. I said, yes, Swami, many times I've climbed ladders and fallen from ladders also. And Swami said, how is a ladder made? I said, Swami, 2 big poles on the side. I was not getting anywhere. I said, Swami, 2 big poles on the side and smaller ones in the middle to be able to climb. I didn't talk about falling. And Swami said, the 2 side poles on the sides are the path of bhakti and jnana. And the middle rungs on which you have to climb up is the path of karma. But don't worry, he said. Choose the path towards which you have a natural inclination. That is the best path for you. That is the best path for you. Because your past samskaras, you have been a karma yogi. Don't worry, even if you are karma yogi, like Vivekananda, the devotion of Ramakrishna Paramahansa and the jnana of Shankaracharya will be added on to you. Once you climb the hilltop and reach the peak, you will realize that all the 4 paths are leading to the same peak. And you will have the essence of the knowledge of all the 4 paths. It will be added on to you. Don't worry. The path towards which you have a natural inclination, that is the best path for you. The 4th question that we have to ask ourselves, which form of God is the most ideal to meditate upon? Many of our brothers and sisters are coming from various parts of the world. They have been brought up in different cultures. We have all different family deities. And then we come to Bhagawan and we get confused. Which form is the best for us to meditate upon and pray to? In the year 2001, when we were doing our PhD, one day Bhagawan came to the Kulwant Hall from Purnachandra at 6:15 in the morning. Twilight time. Even lights were not on. Only Sevadal was standing outside on duty. And they called the portico in charges and everybody else. And Swami in that darkness, just imagine, alone in the Kulwant Hall, cutting across the lines, holding his robe with the left hand, the right hand mysteriously waving in the air, alone. Just walked up to the interview room and went inside. Then he sent word for the research scholars, and we all came running from the hostel. We entered the interview room. Swami did not even acknowledge our presence. For 45 minutes. Was he even breathing? I could not make out. He was just totally still for 45 minutes time. And then he took a deep breath and opened his eyes and looked at all of us. And then I was sitting there and Swami asked, what date is today? I said, Swami, 6th of August. What happened on this day? We had no answer. So we remained silent. And Swami himself said, this was the day the atom bomb was dropped at Hiroshima. And then he revealed further and said, right now in Osaka, thousands of my children are praying to me that such a holocaust, such a catastrophe should never befall humanity again. And what reassuring words were they when Swami said, I listened to their prayers and came. I listened to their prayers and came. The question, sisters and brothers, is, were these devotees in Japan, in Osaka, praying to Sathya Sai Baba's form? No. They are praying to their own gods and goddesses. But who responded? Any sincere prayer for the welfare of others, wherever it may emanate, to whichever form it may emanate, the response only comes from only one place in this world, and that is Prasanthi Nilayam. That is from Bhagawan Sathya Sai Baba. The last question that we have to ask ourselves is, what is the best mantra? What is the best formula to remain hooked and embedded onto the goals of a life? One of our old students spoke in the prayer session one day in the morning, and because I organized prayer sessions, I had a few rehearsals with him. He said, he asked Swami for a mantra. And Swami said, why do you need a mantra? He said, no, Swami, I have come to you, and you are God, Swami. You must give me a mantra. My father has told me I must get a mantra from you. And Swami said, the mantra has already been given. Love all and serve all, help ever and hurt never. He said, no, Swami, I want a specific mantra for me, personal mantra. Swami said, nothing is personal. If Arjuna were to say, Bhagavad Gita is personal discourse given to me, what will happen to the remaining humanity? It is not personal, but I'll give you a mantra, Swami said. And what was that mantra which Swami gave very beautifully to him? Swami said, the mantra is, Lavu, Navu, Navu. Basically meaning in Telugu, love and smile in the present moment. Love and smile in the present moment. When God comes on earth, what does he do? He spreads only his love and smiles to everybody. When we see him, we smile. Why? Because his life is his message. And Swami, once there was a Paduka Puja Mahotsavam here, and Swami asked us in the interview room, what's the meaning of Pada Puja? You all say you want to serve Swami. What's the meaning of Pada Puja? And we said, Swami, serving your lotus feet. And Swami said, that is different, sir. The real meaning of Pada Puja is that when God incarnates on earth in human form, he keeps his feet on the sands of time, which is love and service. Greater love and greater service. Still greater love and still greater service. Keep your feet on those footsteps of God and reach him. That is the real meaning of Pada Puja. That is the real meaning of service to Bhagawan. Sisters and brothers, there is nothing personal in our spiritual life. It is all to be shared and distributed because it only increases by distribution and sharing. Let us pray on this Vijayadashmi day, the day of victory, to our beloved Mother Sai, that we shall be victorious. We will ask ourselves these questions. We will follow the tenets which emerge from our own hearts. And then not only understand the essence of the spiritual life, but also experience and express it in our daily lives. That will be the real spiritual victory which Bhagawan wants us to achieve. So that we can live a life of dedication as his perfect and dedicated instruments till breath pervades our body, and thereafter merge in him in oneness forever and ever. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer myself at the lotus feet of my Bhagawan, Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, a loving Sai Ram to you. Just as a traveler wanders through the desert sands in search of water, each one of us is a traveler on the spiritual journey of life. And just as every journey has a destination, the destination of life is the realization of God. Today we are witness to the culmination of one such spiritual journey, the Purnahuti of the Veda Purusha Saptaha Jnana Nagnam. The Purnahuti literally means complete surrender, or in Swami's words, the culmination of the actions of the 10 senses, the 5 karmendriyas and the 5 jnanendriyas. It was on this very day when Bhagawan used to materialize beautiful gems and precious stones and pearls and offer it into the sacrificial fire. This act of Swami's was nothing but a symbolism that we too must surrender our desires, our ego, our joys and sorrows and attachments into that sacrificial fire. For the surrender of self is like an express ticket to acquiring realization. But then, a question arises in my mind. Swami says that he is the very embodiment of fullness. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnam Eva Vashishtaye. Then, how can we offer our desires, our joys and sorrows into Him who is already complete? How can we offer anything to the one who has everything? To this, Swami gave a very simple solution. In the year 2007, on his visit to Chennai, Swami revealed a very thought-provoking definition of surrender to a select group of students and teachers at his residence in Sundaram. Swami said, surrender means giving nothing. Developing the understanding that we cannot give anything to the one who has everything, to the one who has created us from his sankalpa. All we can do is to accept whatever we receive as his sankalpa. That is true surrender. Swami, in his very famous composition, has recited, Yatna prayatnamu manava dharmamu, jayapa jayamalu daivadhinamu. But then, this intriguing concept of giving nothing to give up everything was very complex for me, and I could not understand its significance. And as if in answer to disentangle my befuddled thoughts, Swami gives a very beautiful analogy. He says, life is like a car journey. In a car, the most important part is the gear system. Initially, when we start the car, we put it in the first gear, and that gives us a limited amount of speed. After which, we shift to the second gear, and for more speed, respectively, the third gear and the fourth gear. But if we initially start the car in the second gear itself, then the whole car wobbles. Similarly, life is the car, in which the first gear is joy, the second gear is sorrow, the third gear is joy, the fourth gear is sorrow. Life just oscillates between pain and pleasure. But then man is an adaptable creature. Thus, when in joy, he is comfortable with his happiness. And if in sorrow, he reconciles with his lot. Then when does the problem occur? The problem occurs when there's a transition between joy and sorrow or sorrow and joy, when the gear shifts. A man living a life full of happiness is overwhelmed by a sudden sorrow. Similarly, a sudden stroke of luck is unreal and unfathomable for a man who is living a life full of despair. So how do we overcome this transition problem? Swami gives a very simple solution to this too. In a car, when we want to shift gears very smoothly and seamlessly, what do? Simple, we press the clutch. Similarly, in life, we too must press the clutch of faith and surrender to Him. It is only when we press this clutch of faith that we can accept both joys as well as sorrows as His prasadam. Only when we realize that He is the creator, the bestower and the destroyer, that it is His divine will that guides our lives, we become mere mediums, mere instruments through which His divine drama is enacted. and we attain true Sharanagati. Swami taught me this beautiful concept in his own inimitable style. It was in the year 2007 when I had joined the 11th standard in the Sri Sathya Sai Higher Secondary School. I was going through a very rough time with many apparent difficulties, for I had joined the hostel for the first time and was getting used to the atmosphere. It was an emotionally harrowing period for me, as even Swami had decided to apparently ignore my prayers for that point of time. Every day, or every time, whenever I used to get a very lucrative position in the students' block, he would purposefully direct the wheelchair away from me. This continued for a long time, until one day I could not contain myself. That night, sleeping in my bed in my room, I looked at the photo of Bhagawan in the room altar and lashed at it with my tumultuous emotions. I blamed him completely for my predicament and sobbed myself to sleep. The next day, I got a chance to sit in the first line at the bottom of the portico slope. Swami came in the wheelchair, and I expected him to mete out the same treatment as he had been giving previously. Half-heartedly, I raised my letter to offer it to him, but he went past by without even taking it. I felt very dejected. But the moment Swami had gone across me, suddenly he turned around and looked into my eyes. And to my utter shock, there were tears in those beautiful eyes. I was beyond confused, for it was me going through the difficulties, then why was Swami crying? It was only later, when my mother was able to interpret this silent gesture of Bhagawan, that I was able to understand what he really meant. When we join as students in his hostel, Swami gives an implicit promise to our parents that we will be given the same tender love and care as we would have received at home. So even if one of her children suffers under her own protective gaze, the mother feels extremely sad. When we still believe that I am the doer and that I am the receiver for all the things that happen around us, we have not understood the true significance of surrender. We must supplicate and accept whatever joys and sorrows we get as His will. In Swami's simple words, if you cooperate, then I will operate. But if you operate, then I cannot cooperate. But true surrender comes with a clause. The acceptance of the Lord's will must be accompanied by the implicit obedience of His command. Here I am reminded of a very famous incident that took place in the life of Sri Kutumb Rao, the former caretaker of this ashram. During the 55th birthday celebrations of Bhagawan, a Narayan Seva was arranged for on a grand scale. When the feeding was in progress, suddenly there was a shortage of sambar. Sri Kutumb Rao immediately rushed in a jeep to the canteen to procure the item. A huge vessel containing steaming hot sambar was being loaded onto the jeep when accidentally it slipped and overturned and fell directly onto Sri Kutumb Rao's legs. He was immediately rushed to the hospital where the doctors treated him for severe burns on his legs. After the treatment, they covered the legs with bandages. That afternoon, Sri Kutumb Rao went limping to the mandir. And when Swami saw him, he joked, "What is all this show? Nothing has happened to your legs." After that, Swami even gave him some guest badges and asked him to distribute them personally to a few devotees in their flats. Sri Kutumb Rao accepted this command obediently and went limping all over the premises and distributed the badges. The next morning, when Sri Kutumb Rao's wife was uncovering the bandages of his legs to have a look at them as they were severely burnt, to their astonishment, the skin was perfectly normal and everything was all right. That evening, when he went for darshan, Sri Kutumb Rao walked quite normally to the amazement of the doctors and the others who had witnessed the accident the previous day. The moment Swami looked at him, he said, "Did I not tell you? Nothing has happened to your legs." Sri Kutumb Rao was the epitome of total surrender. Throughout history, we would have come across many devotees like Lakshmana, Hanuman, or the Gopikas of Vrindavan, who lived a life of total surrender to the Lord. They performed their actions in accordance with the Lord's will and accepted both His love as well as His chiding with equal fervor. Thus, it is man's job to perform the action with discrimination, while it is his job to distribute the rewards. But in today's goal-oriented society, we perform the actions solely based on the rewards that we are likely to receive from them. I am not saying that having an aim is wrong. But if a batsman, while playing his game, keeps looking at the scoreboard, waiting for it to change, then surely he'll miss the ball and become out. Instead, he must focus on the ball and hit it, and the score will automatically change. Similarly, life is like the bowler who throws a number of challenges at us, and we must be ready with the bat of faith to hit the ball for a six. Here I am reminded of the words of advice which Bhagawan had given to the legendary cricketer Sachin Tendulkar. Look at the ball, not at the bowler. This concept, called karma phala tyaga, is but one aspect of nishkama karma. While going through the experiences of Professor Kasturi, the first editor of the Sanatan Sarthi, in his book Loving God, I came across a very wonderful experience which he encountered in his life. One evening, Swami sent a message to Professor Kasturi saying that the editor of a very famous daily newspaper wanted to publish an article on the Sanatan Sarthi and required a very good photograph of its editor alongside it. Swami instructed him to get ready immediately, for he would take the photo himself with a special camera. Professor Kasturi's joy knew no bounds, and he immediately rushed home and returned within minutes, well-groomed and neatly dressed. Swami then positioned him in front of the camera and even complimented him on his photogenic face. Professor Kasturi was elated as his photo would be seen by more than 30,000 readers across Andhra Pradesh. Then after that, Swami gestured and with a ready and steady clicked the camera. Suddenly, a black hairy creature came bouncing out of the camera at Professor Kasturi. He screamed and jumped at the side, and to his utter shock, found that it was a toy rat which had been concealed in the camera. And Swami was having a hearty laugh at his panic. Later, Swami reprimanded him, saying that him being the editor of this magazine was not the news that the world wanted. Then he asked, what greater status can you attain than being a medium for posting and packaging my message to thousands of followers every month? Through this incident, Swami shows us how lucky we are, how lucky each one of us is to be a small part of his mission and to be associated with his institutions. Name and fame, positions and posts are not at all important. True karma phala tyaga is enjoying this opportunity that Swami has given us and not desiring for the fruit thereof. In his first discourse in this year's Mahasabha, Swami said that the yajnam being performed was for loka kalyanam and not for selfish purposes. Similarly, we too must perform actions for the welfare of others and not with the anxiety of the fruit of the action. Initially, I had felt that these concepts of karma phala tyaga, acceptance of his will, and the purnahuti were poles apart. But on delving deep into the essence of surrender, I realized that these were but varied routes that led to the same destination. It is only when we accept everything as his gift, we will develop love for the action and not for the expectation. And it is that very love that helps us purge our desires, ego, joy, sorrows, and attachments in the sacrificial fire. Once the fire has done its duty, all that is left is calm. All that is left is shanti. Then even if our lives shift from first gear, second gear, or third gear, our minds will be neutral and we will be equanimous. And it is in that equanimity that we will be able to hear the voice of God. Swami in his own words has said that without love in the heart, there cannot be surrender in the action. It is only through sneham that we can reach Atma Nivedanam. And it is only when we attain Atma Nivedanam that we can experience true Prashanthi. Today, thousands of devotees have gathered here, having undertaken long, arduous journeys to reach the abode of peace, Prasanthi Nilayam. But it is only the journey of surrender that will take us much more closer to the Lord. It is only when our Atma takes to the path of surrender that we will be able to reach that supreme abode of peace, that we will be able to reach that Prasanthi Nilayam which is present in each and every one of us. And it is in that very Prasanthi Nilayam where our Lord, Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba resides, and we will realize God. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.
O Lord, accept my prayers as I bow down to Thee most reverentially. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, my Sairam to one and all. As we approach the end of the most vibrant 7-day Prashanthi Vidwaan Mahasabha, we discover ourselves standing at the beginning of the endless process of self-discovery. At this juncture, it was most relevant to hear from Brother Abhay Kini the significance of Purna Huti that culminated 7-day Yajna, and to be reminded that true culmination of our spiritual journey lies in true surrender. Thank you, brother, for giving us the true key of surrender to unlock the gates of spirituality. It has been indeed most elevating all through to listen to the great scholars, devotees, and young scholars under the tutelage of Sai, as all of us together inch ahead towards self-realization. The last speaker of the 7-day Vidwaan Mahasabha, Miss Aishwarya, will give us a few simple steps towards self-evolution, indeed a befitting end to the 7-day spiritual treat and retreat. Miss Aishwarya is presently pursuing her final year bachelor's degree in biosciences at Anantapur Campus of the university. As a product of Kendriya Vidyalaya, Chennai, she has proved the versatility of her personality in varied fronts in school as well as in college. Besides being the cultural secretary in her school, she has participated and won many prizes in cultural competitions like dramatics, elocutions, debates, and so on. Most notably, as a member of the youth parliament of her school, she received a second prize at the national level from the Vice President of India in the youth parliament competition conducted by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Despite her active participation in the extracurricular activities of the university, she has consistently proved her proficiency in academics too. For some practical tips on our journey towards self-evolution, let us now listen to Miss Aishwarya. Miss Aishwarya.
सर्वज्ञे सर्ववरदे सर्वदुष्ट भयंकरी सर्वदुःख हरे देवी Mahalakshmi Namostute. I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of Sai Parameshwari. Revered elders, brothers and sisters, warm Vijayadashmi greetings and a loving Sairam to one and all. Dashara is a time when we realize that Devi pervades everything by her nature as energy. It is by sending our prayers to her during this period that we receive the threefold power: Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Deva Rishi Gana Sanghata Stuya Manatma Vaibhava Bhandasura Vadodyukta Shakti Sena Samanvita Maheshwari Mahakali Mahagrasa Mahashana Arpana Chandika Chanda Mundasura Nishudini. Bharat is a holy land in which that powerful Shakti has manifested from time to time for a noble purpose. We have Durga as Mahishasura Mardini, Chamundi as the destroyer of Chanda and Munda. In the same way, the manifestation of Lalita Devi is associated with the annihilation of Bandasura. Thus, Dashara commemorates the victory of good over evil. The best part of Bharatiya culture is that they remind us of our goal of God realization. One such ritual that is followed by the South Indians during Navratri is Golu. It is a tradition wherein idols or bommai are kept on the steps of odd numbers, signifying the evolution of human from an embryo to the divine. The first step signifies the worldly pleasures that a man enjoys, and the corresponding steps are his efforts to become divine. Let us consider this ritual as an analogy. The first step, as we all know, is a desire which we need to curb. Let us consider this, and the first step that we need to take in the ladder of evolution is service. Most of us sitting here have a fundamental urge to find meaning in life. And this urge usually translates into a desire to reach divine by serving others. If we serve thinking that our action is primarily for the benefit of others, then we are incorrect, for service holds the greatest benefit for the one who serves. Let me narrate an incident to prove this point. I belong to the dispensary self-reliance in the hostel. As a result, service to the sick is a humble offering to our beloved Lord. Last year, one of my juniors got a severe hit on her toenail, and the nail split into two. It was bleeding profusely, and it took almost an hour to dress her wound. Later that evening, when I went to dress her wound, she said I was the best doctor she had ever met. This could be a sheer coincidence or mere praise of others, but it meant a lot to me, for I always aspired to become a doctor, and Bhagawan made me the best doctor without an MBBS degree. The exalting fact of service is that it drives us all away from too much of self-concern. This takes us to the next step of sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't mean giving up our life for the sake of others, but it means giving up of selfish desires and ego for the welfare of others. When we try to practice it, there are bound to be many tests put forth before us, as the Lord tests if our selflessness is strong and genuine. But despite all the criticism and obstacles which come to us in the form of tests, we must not get deluded by the mirage of desires. The third step in the ladder of evolution is love. Bhagawan says, duty without love is deplorable. Duty with love is desirable. And love without duty is divine. The whole universe is an enterprise, a very busy factory whose product is love. By means of sadhana, one can manufacture love and export it to millions and millions of people in need of it. The more it is shared, the deeper it becomes, the sweeter its taste, and the vaster its joy. Spreading our love to millions and millions of unknown people might sound an impractical task, but this task has a simple solution if our act is offered to our beloved Lord. And when that is done, He would take the responsibility and work through us. My mother is an ardent Shirdi Baba devotee. Even though she has to travel to a school that is 2 hours away from our house, she engages herself in communication with her Baba. In my 10th grade, she suddenly felt that she had no time to spend with me and that she had to continue to work in order to serve the poor village children out there. She took a promise from her Baba that he should always be with me as my friend, as my mother, and entrusted me to him. Brothers and sisters, that Baba of hers did take me into his fold 3 years later and showered on me not just one mother's love, but that of 1,000 mothers, something I really yearned for. I learned that complete surrender earns God's love, and this forms the last but one step in the ladder of our evolution. But there arises a question. How long should we wait for the results of this act of surrender? Patience comprises an integral part of persistence. Even if one believes that he has totally surrendered to God's will, only patience and persistence can validate his effort. And when we put in this effort, we are eligible for the final step, which is the end, yet a new beginning. Most of us sitting here feel liberation is an extraordinary experience, usually achieved by superhuman devotion. Not at all. This experience is a natural and ordinary way of being. In fact, life in the world is a better training ground for reduction of egos and desires. When we are surrounded by temptations and yet we perceive them to be unreal, then liberation lies close at hand. We need not wait for our hair to turn gray or our teeth to fall out, for there are no prerequisites of age or educational qualification for spiritual liberation. It is our weakness to believe ourselves incapable of this achievement during this Janma. Hard though it may be in times of strife, we need to remind ourselves of His wisdom and His plans for us. I'm sure we are not in the embryo stage and not even far from the ultimate goal. Tough as it may seem to hold on to this belief in the ordinary rigors of daily life, we need to remind ourselves that He is with us. Our task is to make ourselves ready for His work. He is our Ghanashama. We are His Murali, and His mission, our music. I would like to end my talk with a prayer. Dearest Bhagawan, at the first glance, you are but a small frame in orange robe, sometimes stern, but always smiling. You smiled at me, and that smile gave me a glimpse of your radiance. And the next time when I saw you, love enveloped me, and unconsciously a tear caressed my cheeks. I pray to you, O Lord, come into our hearts and show us that we are one with Thee. Jai Sai Ram.